Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is Shan Ferdinand. I have Mr. Kerry Ferdinand here.
One each. What's going on?
Thank you guys for joining us here at Black Lion Realty. We got Miss Rain Lennon on the ones and twos.
Hi.
We are
Already in the
here
building.
talking real estate, business, and everything in between. So let's get into it.
Let's go. So, in my hand, I have the housing study for Newport News, Virginia, and it is a draft. However, it's very insightful.
That looks a little thick.
It's the book.
How many pages is that?
It's 129 pages of get down, not to mention the slides.
Oh, okay. How many pages is this?
I didn't look too much into the slides. I didn't count the slides, but it's 129 pages of good information.
So talk to us about this good information.
So this study was done by the urban planners out in Philadelphia, looks like. All right. And it's a basic breakdown of what's going on in the city and what's been going on in the city, recommendations and solutions.
Okay.
I believe that you had an opportunity to go over some of this too, right?
I did. I read over it. I didn't read all 129 pages, but I went over it.
So from what you read, what is your general understanding and what are the things that stood out to you?
So my general understanding is that Newport News economically is not keeping up with the surrounding cities in the Hampton Roads region. Not only economically, but I guess the housing market would be included in economics, that there is opportunity for small business owners to
Small and large, yeah.
to help Newport News keep up pace. And yeah, I think that was about it.
Okay. So I took away the same things. As I was going through this, the way the language is written, it lends that there are problems in Newport News, but as an entrepreneur, and I feel like as a city, there's great opportunity. Thanks to this study, there's great opportunities to earn money to make it a thriving beacon in the Hampton Roads area. Because out of all the cities, I think I've always thought that Newport News has the best potential out of all the current cities. It's just a matter of updating and tweaking a few things here and there.
Right. So it kind of it made me realize that I wasn't as in tune with the housing market as I thought I was, because I guess I always looked at Newport News as one of the most economically advantaged
Or diverse.
Cities in the Hampton Roads area. For me, the military base and the shipyard, to me, equated to economically thriving. But apparently this housing survey says otherwise.
Yeah, so it touches on that, right? Because job-wise, sustainability as far as jobs in the area with Newport News shipbuilding being one of the main anchors, then you have various military from Army to Coast Guard to Navy. It's one would think that economically that would be thriving, but something that came out of that report too was, although the jobs were here, people are leaving the city. So although they're working here, they're leaving Norfolk, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Hampton, and those surrounding areas, even Isle of Wight. So it goes to say that the economics is here. It's just how do we keep the economics here? One of the parts of the study talks about migration. Migration in the sense of when people leave the city, the income that leaves the city doesn't match to the people that are coming into the city. And I'm not even talking, because in the election year, we're thinking about we're bringing in undocumented immigrants, this, that, and the third, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about actually everyday households, 1 to 2 working people in the household. When they leave, they're taking a difference of $11,000 from who's leaving and who's coming in. So the question is who we're attracting and how we're attracting those things, or those people.
And I just want to address, some people might ask, why does it even matter why are we concerned with people working in Newport News but living outside of
Yeah.
Newport
So
News.
if on the aspect of who's living and working, it's a big deal because you would want to keep the people here. We have the jobs here, and we want to keep you closer to drive the economics. So if I'm paying you $75,000 a year, I want that $75,000 to rotate inside of my city instead of leaving my city. So I want your kids to go to school here. I want them to be educated here. As a city, I want entertainment here. I want all the things to get my money back to make us a thriving city. I want all that here in my city.
And then the dreaded word tax dollars, but tax dollars benefit the city, and
Right.
we want the tax dollars to stay within the city.
Right. So we want more taxable dollars than anything else. We don't want it's hard pressed for a city to thrive without tax dollars. Now, what that looks like is a different conversation. I'm not an economics by any means, but the key point to this is we need taxes. Now, how much taxes? That's a conversation for somebody else on another channel.
Right.
But when we're talking about income levels, that's a big deal. When we talk about a disparity between $11,000 per household leaving the city,
That's almost 11,000. You mean $11,000 salary? Right?
no. So when we're talking $11,000, so the median income in Newport News as a whole is in or about, according to the study, is in or about between, without me flipping to the page, is between high 50s, mid 60s. But then so imagine $68,000 leaving household income, right? And now you have a household income of $52,000 coming in. That hurts the city. That doesn't help the city because my tax dollars went down.
Right.
Something else that we're going to get into is that family that's coming in may already be a cost burden in their own home. They can't afford it, which is also an interesting part to this study.
Okay.
So jumping straight into that. So the interesting part about a cost burden is, according to this study, in the last 5 years, and I read it wrong the first time I read it. I thought they were saying the medium home price right now is $260,000, but they're saying over the past 5 years, the median income has been $260,000. Well, let's take in account that we're not 5 years ago, and we're not looking at the last 5 years, and we may not see that increase of housing going up from 260 to where we are 340,000 right now. That's, or 355 actually. That's a huge difference between when this study is concentrated on to where we're going in the anomaly of COVID that happened throughout this study, right? So now we're talking about a medium household or a medium price of a house in Newport News being $355,000. Who's paying for that?
Right.
Because if we're attracting people that are coming in, that their median income is $52,000, the way the rates are set up and the way the median,
can't afford that.
Who could afford that?
Right.
So we're bringing in people
that can't afford
what we have.
So it drives. Does it drive the value, or economically will it drive? Not necessarily the housing values, but maybe the housing values, because if you have a city full of people who make the $52,000, but the houses are $400,000 and they can't afford it, won't the housing prices have to come down?
One would assume, right? But here's the flip side of that: we still have a lot of vacancies due to things like zoning, right? And people like, well, what are you talking about zoning? So when the majority of the city was built, and we're going to talk South Side here, right? When a majority of the city was built, it was built at a time where it was narrower lots.
I remember reading about that.
Right. Smaller lot size, smaller footprint. And then they had alleyways in the back, right? But the city's gotten away from the alleyways due to crime, that sort of thing. But
and the
now,
purpose of those alleyways was because more people were walking.
And it was unsightly to have trash in the front, right? So trash was in the back. But that's when you hear about the crime and that sort of thing. So it got away from that. And Now what we have is we have these shotgun style lots,
and
right?
you can't put your typical
You
single family.
right. You can't build on it, right? So now you have home, lot, home, lot, home. How does one take advantage of that?
Yeah.
And how do we so if we wanted to take these houses down that were built, say, the 60s, how do we do that?
Right.
How do we renovate these houses in the 60s to today's standards, because it's not zoned properly? So now we're looking at how do we rezone that situation. And like I said, the Southeast is a good model for that, but it's a great opportunity because the Southeast has a lot of those affordable houses, but they're vacant.
It sounds so overwhelming. Sounds like a lot's going on, and there's a lot to be done, and there's a lot of money that has to go into this to mediate the issue, to fix the issue.
So what I'm looking at is, as a small business owner or somebody that's in fixing or flipping, anybody can do this, right?
Right.
It's a lot of money.
But for your average person, right? It seems like
I feel like, as your average person, I feel like if the city of Newport News creates tax shelters, tax benefits for those people that are doing these things, and I think there's a part in here where we're talking about accessory dwelling units, ADUs, where they would like to encourage single family homeowners with certain lot sizes to go ahead and put ADUs on their property.
How does the ADU benefit the city?
So the ADU, so it takes the stress off the city of having to build more houses, right? So now it allows for a couple things. It takes the stress off the city. It allows more taxable income to come in. It allows the actual homeowner to benefit, and it encourages people to stay within the city. So there's also a housing shortage, right? Guess what? This allows us, because listen, I get the double stack on one property.
So you kind of kill three birds with one stone.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So when we're looking at all this, there's a ton of money to be made if you're just homeowner looking for extra income. If you are a small business, or your model is fix and flip, rehab, even if you want to purchase and hold, buy and hold, the opportunity is there. If you are a business sizable enough to build houses for a benefit for so say the shipyard, let's say the shipyard decides, hey, I want to get into the housing business. They start building housing for the benefit of their employees, right? So there's a lot of good information in this study that touches on a plethora of.
Yeah, I think that there was something in there about like employee sponsored housing or whatnot. Yep. But can we stop here and go back to the narrow lots? Because I don't think we really talked about potential solutions for the narrow lots, or if the study addresses any potential solutions for the narrow lots. Do you know? Well, you've read the whole study. You nerded out and read the whole study.
I did.
Did they touch on that? Did they touch on possible solutions for these small lots? Did they talk about putting smaller homes on the lots, or maybe combining lots?
So that's when they discussed the rezoning. That's going to be a city challenge regardless, because we have to rezone, grandfather, do what we have to do for what's there now. But then what do we want the city to look like in the future?
Right.
That's a problem that the city has to decide today, is in 2050, what does our city look like?
Right.
They do touch on things like creating land banks, and the parallel to that is.
Can you expound on what a land bank is?
So the city will take control of, say, these vacant properties, these foreclosed properties, that sort of thing, and it's going to sit there, right? And the city's going to have a list, and say an investor, home buyer, whatever, right? They come up and they say that we want to buy the certain lot. The city's going to say, all right, we have these lots here. Here are the requirements for this lot.
Doesn't the city kind of have something like that going?
The city
now?
has something like that. I just don't know how efficient or effective it is.
Right.
Because the city is great to say that it's on our website,
but it's
where,
not there, right?
And then who's reading these websites, instead of actively using partnerships with real estate companies or investment companies, this, that, and the third, instead of reaching inside, I do think that a blind spot for the city has always been not utilizing the small businesses within the city.
Right.
I don't know if it's because they don't have the reach, they don't, whatever, but it's definitely been a blind spot of the city not to properly utilize the city's resources, internal resources, to help revitalize the city.
I think that problem's twofold, not to go, deviate too much away from this, but as I'm learning more about the city and subscribing to the mailing list and talking to people with the city, I'm learning that they do put that information out there and they do provide lots of resources for the small businesses. It's just a matter of the small businesses, I guess, not knowing where to look or not knowing where to go or not knowing who to talk to. And I don't know how the city would, bring those two to,
So let me say this, right? I absolutely think the city employees and workers inside of the city are fantastic. I work with a lot of them. I absolutely believe that they don't wake up in the morning and be like, oh man, I hate my job. I ain't going to do X, Y, and Z. I do get a sense that when you call, when you go up there, when you meet them, you talk to them face to face, I generally believe that they are there to help, right? That said, with any large organization, you do have parts of the city that don't talk to each other.
Right.
And because of that, you do have businesses that don't know where to go.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. I do know that the city is involved in small businesses, but where's that information sit at?
Right.
I do know the city does a lot of great things, but it's like you have to go on a kind of Easter egg hunt to find it. Right. It's like a scavenger hunt to find certain information. And then you have to know a friend of a friend that did a thing to get to that information, which can be frustrating. So I believe your typical small business owner has a issue finding information. So when you're asking, doesn't the city already have something like this? The question should be, do they?
Right.
And where is it posted? How do I get this information? Who's in charge? Because I could tell you when I found the information, I had to go 3 or 4 different offices in order to get the information. By the time I got it, it was outdated. And then how often is updated? So it's things like that. And I feel like the elected city officials should really have a dog in the fight to make sure that information is properly pushed out and make sure, because what you give attention to is what gets done. So if the information is not being pushed out, maybe we should start putting an eye on certain elected officials. And
I also think that business owners have to be more curious and ask more questions and because I don't know, I'm not gonna step on that soapbox, but I think that it's a problem on both ends.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem, but let's help bridge the gap. Right. When I open up my business, I focus in on my business. I focus on my processes. I focus on my products and services. The things I didn't focus on was how's the city going to help me, because it's really about me getting this thing up and going. Now, if the city could help, absolutely, but I don't think that most people starting a business think, what does the city have for me? Because it's not pushed out.
Right. Okay. Well, let's get back to the survey. So, another thing that stood out to me was the number of houses that have to be replaced. I thought I saw by 2050, but you said by 2025. Yeah, no.
So your number was more correct. So we'll say between 17 and 21,000 are the number of houses that have to be replaced, not built,
right?
But not replaced. New construction, but
houses that are currently standing,
either vacant lots, what have you.
Do we know approximately how many houses currently stand in Newport News? Was that in the survey?
It is. I don't remember that number. That number didn't really jump out at me.
I was just curious as to what percentage that $20,000 figure is.
20,000 lots or $20,000 homes to be replaced.
Yeah, 20,000 compared to the total number of houses in Newport News.
So that number is actually based on how many people the city should be expecting to come in to the city, which is also an interesting number, where the growth of the cities around Newport News has been in around 7% annually year over year, where it's only been 3% here in Newport News, which means we have more people leaving, or we don't have what it takes to attract and keep the people here in Newport News, which means we're at a 4% deficit of growth. So to our economy, what does that look like?
Right. And, being a little constructively critical, Newport News could do some work on adding things to keep people in the city. If you compare Newport News to other cities, unfortunately, there's not a lot here, especially to keep the younger people who are, buying the houses and doing, because, you got the baby boomers who are retired, Gen Z, Gen X, after the baby boomers who are approaching retirement age. Millennials are approaching retirement age. So the things that attract the younger generation and keep them in a city, keep them interested in staying. I don't think that we have that here in Newport
No,
News.
so we don't present ourselves as a younger city. The city, it talks about it in here more indirectly than directly. Some of what you're saying shows that you are in tune with what we're talking about. The city does have an issue with, let's not say issue because it is what it is. We do have a large demographic of baby boomers, which are post-retirement.
Mm-hmm.
They're in their second life.
Mm-hmm.
And they are getting to that age where it's an older city.
Mm-hmm.
It's an older city,
It is.
and the people are older.
Mm-hmm.
Right, the older the one of the two biggest demographics in the city are our seniors and our millennials.
Mm-hmm.
Right,
Mm-hmm.
that's an issue. How do we bridge the gap? Right, because right now the city is designed
Mm-hmm.
for the elderly, but we have more coming.
Right, and considering that we would be considered a college town, you would think that we would do more to keep, because we have Christopher Newport here, right?
Yeah,
and even in surrounding cities.
I don't know how much I would agree that we would consider ourselves a college town more so than a blue collar town with the military and the shipyard.
Well, but we also are surrounded by lots of colleges. I've had clients want to be here because
so I'm speaking specifically, like if we just had, like if Newport News was its own island, yes, there's a second and third order effect where it comes to other colleges around, but even given that, I wouldn't consider Newport News so much of a college town more than a blue collar, and what is coming with wind turbines and the supercomputer and all the other stuff that's coming. I would say we are leaning more to a technical town, but I wouldn't agree to a
not with
college.
Christopher Newport being
No,
here and
I mean
being excited.
So when I think of a college town, I'm thinking of several colleges, or at least 2 to 3 colleges in a certain area with a
in one
younger
city.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, we don't have it.
Like Norfolk.
Norfolk and what other colleges? So you look at Norfolk with ODU, Norfolk State. Who else we got?
I'm just using Norfolk just because I want to.
You know the studies about Newport News, right?
No.
Okay. See, Poet, you see what she tried to do there, right? She's trying to interject her own little her own little city.
Back to the survey. 20,000 houses.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So that sounds like an amazing opportunity and I focus on small businesses just because small businesses are what drive the economy. Right. Sounds like a great opportunity for small business owners to, grow, scale, and make a lot of money. Right. I think, especially those who are in development, who are in real estate, who are in rehabbing, property management, that type of, those real estate industries. It sounds like it's a great opportunity.
Yeah, this study definitely touches on that, but something else, I don't know if it's in this study, but maybe it should be. Maybe it is, because I do a lot of research on a lot of things, but I do think even the quality of schools should be addressed and what our taxpaying dollars go to.
Do you mean the public schools?
Absolutely, because when we're talking about schools. And while we're talking about the study, it's primarily public, because this is the things that the city has to get in tune with economically.
Right.
When we're talking private organizations, they bring income, but it's not the primary focus of the city. It's a byproduct number. So when we are talking, we're talking about public, right? So the quality of the school systems, because our neighboring cities have better school districts, at least on paper. Because I would argue that Woodside is better than Yorktown all day, every day on paper, right? When we look at the stats,
Graduation
graduation,
rates.
yes. When we look at that, when we look at curriculum, and we look at who does what after graduation, Woodside is a top school in the area.
But
Right.
they don't get that credit just
No,
because
they
they're
don't
in
get
Newport News.
right. They don't get the credit because they're in Newport News. And what do people think of Newport News?
And Newport News school system is, because when I moved here, because I'm not a Newport News native, I learned about the various academies available to the students. I believe high school students. There's like a engineering academy. I believe there's a maritime academy. And so, that goes to show that, they're offering opportunities to these young people to advance. I don't know that the Yorktown school systems offer that, but I mean, it just goes to show that Newport News school system they are doing something.
Right. So what are the things that we're doing to attract people to these schools?
Right.
Obviously, our school system is a selling point to most people. I could tell you from being stationed on Fort Eustis, when you have people coming in and leaving, one of the biggest considerations is, where's my child going to school? And they look at it, and everybody believes that that school system is not in the Newport News district.
Right.
Right. Understandably, a lot of people, when they're coming in, so this study broke the city down into 3 sections, right? And Newport News is broken down into 3 sections, right?
What sections are those?
So we have North Side, so that's the Denby area.
Oh, you mean as far as districts?
So you have the Denby area, you have the central, and then you have the Southeast, right? Those are 3 completely different communities, at least it feels like. So then what's the plan to get everybody on board instead of having, I call it the 3 kings?
Right.
Right? How do we get rid of the 3 kings, have 1 king, and create equality across?
Right.
And the study touches on some of that as well, because there's a large disparity between central and north and south. Huge disparity.
So I have a question. Will this study be released to the public?
This is a public study.
Gotcha.
This is not something that, I just pulled out of the sky and just stole from somebody's desk. This is a public study. It is being released. On Tuesday, they will be talking about it, or this upcoming city council meeting. It will be discussed right here in Denby, which is awesome. So this is all exciting information.
So you recommend that Newport News citizens read or residents, Newport News residents read the study?
I feel like not only should they read it, they should be actively involved in what's going on in the city, because one thing you don't want to happen is the city move on without you and you don't know what's going on, or the city is making decisions for you and you are not part of it, because this has been a collective study with several different partners, which I think some are well represented, some are ill represented there in the study. So, for example, I do wonder how good this study is, because I feel like information is basically skewed based off of us being 52% military. How much of that was taken into consideration when talking about income and rates and that sort of thing? Because if we're 52% military, out of that 52% out of the entire city, how many of them are actually paying taxes?
Right.
Because a lot of their information they got off of public sites like the IRS website and the census.
Yeah.
If I'm not reporting how much money I'm earning, which is interesting, because with Newport News being not just Newport News, but Newport News is one of them. But with Hampton Roads being the most densely populated military community in the world, hear me out. Not in Virginia, not nationally, but in the world. How much emphasis was put on the military, and where's the study for the military, and when is that coming out? Because I feel like that needs to be a supplement to this to make sure that this study is an actual correct study.
Those are good points. Those are good points and questions to be raised. with all of that being said,
Mm-hmm.
what do you think Newport News will look like in 10 to 15 years?
Yeah, so I don't know. Depends on the current city council.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on the current leadership in the city right now on what that looks like between now and 2050. So
Mm-hmm.
we've done a great job getting this study done, right?
Right.
So the outgoing administration, they did a great job by getting this done, right? Now it's up to the new guys.
To take it and run with
Right?
it.
What's their plan moving forward?
Right.
What is and not to put this squarely on the elected officials, the mayor and council members, but they are the guiding light to this.
Yeah.
So what does that look like?
Mm-hmm.
What stands are they taking? Because I've heard a lot of conversations about different topics throughout the city, but it seems as though this housing topic is a key topic that I don't know if it's properly being discussed
Mm-hmm.
in the city.
Right.
I hear a lot of conversations about what we should do with the Southeast, ignoring Central and Northern District. And it's easy to talk about a district where you have a lot of poverty, a lot of subsidies, and what seems like a drain on the city. But the key fact is, and the bottom line is, Newport News as a whole is losing ground, and we could tell that by 4% year over year.
Mm-hmm.
So the economics of it says doesn't make sense. So whatever the new council does today at this Demi meeting, after they read this, is going to tell us what it's going to look like 10 to 15 years from now. What do I hope it looks like? I hope it looks like a thriving city. I hope for new parks, which will drive the younger parents. So drive them here. I hope that they focus in on the school system, get quality teachers, upgrade these schools, focus on that, incentivize smaller businesses and medium-sized businesses to come in and help renovate, bringing opportunities back to the city and housing.
Even a decent nightlife.
Yeah, because everything shuts down at 10 o'clock here on the weekend. So even incentivizing, but that gets a little tricky because where do you put them? Because that goes back to a zoning thing. I look for I would like to see more creative solutions than let's go to North Carolina and let's go to these different places and see what they're doing. Because our city is so diverse and uniquely diverse, I would like to see how they incorporate the military with what we have here,
right?
Because our two driving forces are the military and the shipyard. So I would like to see a creative plan.
It's really the military because the shipyard
supports the military, right? So I would like to see a creative plan in the future in what that looks like.
I hope Newport News decides to get rid of the alley. That'll be amazing.
Listen, I'm not going to talk about anybody's personal businesses around here. The alley's been a staple in Newport News for quite a time now. I don't know if getting rid of the alley is the overarching plan here.
It should be.
Listen, I feel like if you're between 21 and 65, you've been to the alley at some point in your life. So I don't know if getting rid of the alley is the thing. I do think that older businesses, because we just lost the dump. The dump's closing.
Really?
Yeah.
Where was the dump in Newport News?
My bad. We're gonna edit that out, but that's Hampton. But
okay.
Yeah, the dump's leaving. That's right outside of Newport News, though.
Is the dump going out of business or is it just leaving the area?
I don't know. I just see signs saying it's closing.
They always do that.
No. They have it on the highway and everything. They got billboards saying that.
Because they have the commercial. The dump's going out of business. They've been going out of business since I was 5.
This time it looks serious.
Really? Okay. Well,
anyway, yeah.
All of that is great information. And based upon what I see going on downtown Newport News, I'm really excited to see what the future of the entire city of Newport News looks like, especially with the release of this survey. So we'll keep our eyes open. Are you attending the city council meeting on Tuesday?
I don't think that I am.
Okay. Well, I do believe that they stream those, so I might check it out just to, see what they talk about up in there. But yeah, this has been informative. I've learned some things, even though I read some of the study, but I've learned some things. And like I said, I'm really excited about the future of Newport News. So
Yeah, I think the city has started doing good things. I don't know that what they've started is enough,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what their plan was when they started when they did certain things. I do believe that younger generations do need to be addressed. I think the military need to be addressed a little bit more, and I think that when you have a unique city like a Nashville where their whole thing is music, I think when you use your city's uniqueness um, and move into it instead of copying somebody else's, you put together something special when you have the city
Yeah.
personality involved, like Austin, Houston.
I just make that face because I'm wondering. You bring up Nashville and music. I'm just wondering what Newport News would be known for.
I mean, we're coastal. We have a lot of good things that we could bring in, and that's why I said we are so unique that there's a lot to bring in. And Newport News has the athletes. Um, we have the musicians. We have a lot of great things that come out of Newport News, but on a national scale or even a regional scale, doesn't get the notoriety it should.
Yeah.
So I think that the city should and needs to come up with a creative plan. I don't think the city should keep reaching outside of the city
Sounds like you have some great ideas.
for help. I might.
So when can we expect to see you running for office?
Me.
Yeah, you.
Listen, the day I do run for office, and if I ever run for office,
Mm-hmm.
just know that I would have had it with my councilman or whoever I'm running against at that point. But I do think at this point today
Mm-hmm.
that who we have is satisfactory enough to at least get us to where we need to be. And being that most of the people that are in council right now are newer, I feel like it's their time. So I don't think it's time for me.
So with that being said, Kerry Ferdinand for City Council 2027. Keep your eyes open.
All right. Um, I didn't say it's out. What I'm saying is, uh, I appreciate the endorsement,
Mm-hmm.
but we'll have to see. I'd like to see what our city officials could do today
Okay.
before I do anything tomorrow.
Gotcha.
That said, I hope we gave some value. We're going to come back and actually touch on some of these other topics later on, and actually even touch on investment strategies. How can you earn money and what opportunities are there within the city plan? And I promise to get a little bit deeper and to see what initiatives the city puts up as far as taxes, tax deferments, grants, that sort of thing, to incentivize the city.
That'd be
So
interesting to see.
we're gonna definitely start talking more money, Newport News, and how we could get after it
And we can
in the
discuss
upcoming months.
things as they unfold with the city as well. Keep our eyes open and keep the audience updated.
Absolutely.
All right.
And it's my goal to have some of our council members come in here. I've invited a few of them.
That'd be great.
We'll see if they show up. All right. So look forward to the next conversation. And this is Kerry and Shan signing off. Great job, Poetti.